I stood in the center of the conference room, my own conference room, staring at a contract I had never seen before. The air felt tight around me. My son, Ethan, tried to steady his voice as he said, "Dad, you just need to sign this. We'll get the money, more than you think." The rival CEO leaned back, already sure he had won. I looked at my son, the boy I had trusted for more than 6 decades, and whispered, "Ethan, you sold my company while I was still alive. Before I take you into how everything began, subscribe and tell me where you are listening from. Now, let me go back to the moment all of this started. When I looked at that contract in the conference room, something in me went still. But the truth is, this story didn't begin there. It began long before, in the quiet parts of my life that I once believed were safe. My name is Michael Turner. I am 63 years old, living in Seattle. For almost 3 decades, I built a company called Turner Analytics. It started in my old garage. Just a few tables, some secondhand equipment, and a dream I carried alone. I only wanted to create something steady, something that could support my family after years of struggling. Over time, that small dream grew bigger. The company became worth more than $25 million. It was my pride, my purpose, and the last piece of my wife I still held on to after I lost her to cancer 10 years ago. My family is small. It has always been just me and my son, Ethan. He is 32 now. I hoped he would take over one day, carry the name, the work, the values, but he never showed a strong will for it. Still, I waited. I believed that people grow at their own pace, that he would find his way when the moment mattered. My closest friend, Robert, has been my attorney for more than 20 years. He has seen me through every failure and every quiet win. He has never asked for anything except honesty. Before everything collapsed, life felt strangely peaceful. For the first time in many years, I allowed myself to take a break. A long one. 2 months across Europe. I had postponed that trip again and again, until Ethan put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Just go, Dad. I'll take care of everything." His voice sounded steady then. I believed him. I left home with a calm mind. I packed light, locked the doors, and told myself the company would be safe with the person I trusted most in this world. But as my plane lifted off the runway, I had no idea that every mile I traveled was taking me farther from the life I knew and closer to a betrayal I never expected. And the first sign of that betrayal appeared only a few weeks later. The first sign came quietly, small enough that I almost ignored it. But looking back, that was the moment the ground beneath me began to shift. About 3 weeks into my trip, Ethan's tone changed. At first he sent long messages telling me how things were running at the office. Then, the updates became short, cold, detached. When we video called, he looked distracted as if he had somewhere else to be. His eyes kept drifting away from the camera. I remember asking him, "Is the company doing okay?" He didn't even pause. "It's fine. Just enjoy yourself, Dad. Don't worry about anything." The way he said, "Don't worry," it didn't soothe me. It tightened something in my chest. Ethan was many things, but he was never the one to calm anyone down. It felt like he wanted to close a door before I could look inside. One afternoon, I received a call from Robert. His voice was low, tense, not like him at all. "Mike, when you have a moment, I need to talk to you about something. It's important." But before I could call him back, my phone lit up again. It was Ethan. He sounded almost urgent. "Dad, don't talk to Robert about the company. He's exaggerating. He always does this. I'm handling everything. Trust me. Trust me." That should have been a comfort. Instead, it felt like a warning. For the rest of the day, I tried to enjoy the city I was in, but my mind kept circling back to that call. Why would Ethan stop me from speaking to the one person who knew every detail of our business? Why now? I told myself I was overthinking, that I was tired, that I should relax and let him lead for once. But I didn't know then that this was only the beginning, the quiet beginning of something that would soon break everything I believed about my own son. That uneasy feeling stayed with me, even when I tried to ignore it. I kept telling myself that Ethan was just stressed, that running a company was new to him, that I needed to give him space. But the small signs kept coming, each one sharper than the last. The next call we had felt different. It was late evening for me, early morning for him. His face appeared on the screen, but he didn't look like he had slept. His jaw was tight, and his voice carried a strange mix of impatience and something colder. "Dad, you should think about retiring," he said. He didn't smile. He didn't soften the words. He just dropped them. I tried to laugh a little, thinking he was joking, but he didn't join me. "I'm serious," he added. "You're not young anymore. Maybe it's time to step back." Step back. 2 words that cut deeper than I expected. He had never spoken to me like that. Not with that tone. Not with that strange finality. I stayed calm, but inside something trembled. "I'll retire when I'm ready, Ethan," I said softly. He didn't argue. He just nodded, but the nod wasn't understanding. It felt like he was marking something off a list. After that call, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in a small hotel room in Italy, staring at the ceiling, replaying his voice. I tried to convince myself that he was overwhelmed, that he didn't mean it. But deep down, I knew something was shifting. A few days later, a senior employee messaged me. Her words were careful, almost afraid to offend. "Sir, may I ask why you approved a full restructuring of the leadership team?" I froze. I had approved nothing, not a single change. I called Ethan immediately. Once, twice, 3 times. He didn't pick up. He didn't call back. That was when the worry settled into something heavier. Not fear exactly, but the beginning of a kind of heartbreak I couldn't define yet. Then Robert tried again. He called while I was walking through a quiet street, the air cool and the sun just starting to set. His voice cracked through the speaker like a warning bell. "Mike, come home early. There's something big happening. You need to be here." Those words hit me harder than anything Ethan had said. But before I could ask questions, another call came through. "Ethan." His voice was tight. "Dad, don't listen to him. He's jealous. He wants to make you worry. I told you I am taking care of everything." When did my son start speaking like that? When did he begin seeing Robert as some kind of threat? When did he learn how to twist fear into reassurance? I didn't answer right away. I just listened to him breathe through the phone, waiting for something real to slip out. But nothing did. "Trust me," he repeated. It felt rehearsed. Days passed, and the messages from the office kept coming. Small things at first. Questions about decisions I had never made. Updates about meetings I supposedly approved. A sense of confusion spreading through people who had worked with me for years. Then came the message that changed everything. "A manager I trusted," wrote Ethan, "introduced the CEO of Blackline Systems at the office today. They said they're evaluating a buyout of Turner Analytics. Blackline Systems, my biggest competitor, the company that had tried to crush us for years." My chest tightened so suddenly that I had to sit down. I read that message again and again, each time hoping I misunderstood. But I hadn't. Ethan wasn't just changing a few things. He wasn't just trying to prove himself. He was moving the company, my company, toward the one place I had sworn never to let it fall. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I booked the earliest flight home. I packed my suitcase with shaking hands and barely slept that night. Every hour felt heavy. Every mile felt slow. I kept seeing Ethan's face on the video call, the calm eyes, the forced confidence, the words he used to push me away. When I finally returned to the office, the morning air felt cold against my skin. I walked inside, expecting, hoping, that someone had misunderstood. But the moment I stepped into my office, the truth hit me like a wave. I couldn't stop. My desk was cleared. Every picture, every document, every small piece of my life's work, gone. My nameplate was removed. And standing in front of the window, as if he had always belonged there, was Ethan. He turned to me slowly. "You came back earlier than expected," he said. "But it's fine. Everything is already handled. As if my entire life was a task he had finished. I stood there, staring at him, feeling something inside me bend, and then break. Not loud, not angry, just a quiet, tired snap. That was the moment I knew. The boy I raised was no longer the man standing before me. And the worst part was, the real truth still hadn't come out yet. I walked out of the building that evening with a kind of silence I had never felt before. Not anger, not even shock, just a heavy, quiet emptiness. The type that makes every sound feel distant. I stood in the parking lot, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what my own son had done. That was when I saw Robert walking toward me. He looked tired, older somehow, as if he had been carrying a burden alone for too long. "Mike," he said softly, "we need to talk." I already feared what he would say, but I followed him to the far corner of the lot where the noise of the city faded. The air was cold enough that my breath came out in pale clouds. He handed me a folder, a simple, thin folder. But the weight of it felt heavier than stone. "Before you open it," he said, "you should know they already sold your company." The words didn't make sense at first. They floated around me soft but sharp, searching for a place to land. "Sold," I whispered. "Sold to who?" Blackline, he said. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. The time when Ethan's messages became short. The time he started avoiding my calls. The time he told me not to talk to Robert. I opened the folder with numb hands. Inside were copies of the transfer documents, the agreements, the signatures. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. I stared at it, my eyes blurring. "Who signed this?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Robert put a hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "Ethan," he said, "he forged your authorization, and someone inside Blackline helped him. The world didn't fall apart in a dramatic way. It just sagged, quietly, like something that had been stretched too far." I closed the folder, but Robert wasn't finished. "Mike, there's more," he whispered. I lifted my eyes to him. "Ethan got a kickback," he said. $2 million. They paid him to push the sale through. I felt the cold air slip deeper into my chest. A kickback. Money, not loyalty, not family, not trust, just money. But Robert leaned closer, lowering his voice until it was barely a breath. "You need to hear this part carefully. Ethan doesn't know it yet, but Blackline plans to liquidate everything. They want to erase Turner Analytics completely. The name, the team, the legacy, all of it. Erase. Not buy. Not merge. Erase." And suddenly the betrayal wasn't just about a signature, or the money, or the lies. It was about watching my life's work quietly disappear, with my son standing beside the people destroying it. I stood there in that parking lot, the cold sinking into my bones, and I made a decision. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of something deeper. I would not let them finish what they started. I drove home after that meeting with Robert, but I barely remember the road. My hands were on the steering wheel, yet my mind was somewhere else, trapped between disbelief and a quiet, heavy sorrow. I had spent more than half my life building Turner Analytics. Now it had been traded away behind my back, and the person who signed it away was my own son. When I reached my house, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark for a long time, letting the silence settle around me. I expected anger to rise, or panic, or some loud rush of emotion. But none of that came. Instead, I felt something calm. Cold, but calm. I knew that if I reacted now, if I confronted Ethan, if I shouted or demanded answers, I would lose everything. The deal was not complete yet. Blackline still needed my legal signature. Without it, they had nothing. And I realized, for the first time in weeks, the power was still in my hands. So I chose silence. For 3 days, I moved through the house like a shadow. I answered no questions unless necessary. I kept my voice soft, detached, defeated. I let Ethan believe that his plan had worked, that I had given up. He visited me once during that time. He walked in with a confidence that did not belong to him. "Dad, you should thank me," he said. "I did what you never had the courage to do." I didn't respond. I only looked at him, letting the quiet around us grow heavier. He mistook it for weakness. He thought I had accepted my fate. While he relaxed, I worked, quietly, carefully. I reached out to a legal expert I trusted, someone who specialized in signature forgery and financial misconduct. We reviewed every document, every email, every transfer Ethan had attempted to hide. I learned exactly how deep the deception went and how fragile the scheme truly was. At the same time, Robert gave me everything he had backed up before Ethan pushed him out. Old emails, internal memos, meeting notes, hidden conversations between Ethan and Blackline's CEO. Each piece was a thread, and slowly the threads formed a net strong enough to pull the truth into the open. Late one night, I met with a former board member in a quiet cafe. He had served the company since its early days. He looked at me with a mixture of concern and guilt. "Mike," he said, "Blackline hasn't completed the payment. They're waiting for your signature. Without it, the sale isn't valid." That was the moment everything aligned. Ethan thought he had trapped me. Blackline thought they had cornered me. Everyone believed I was the old man who needed guidance, the man too tired to fight. But they all overlooked something simple. I knew the company better than anyone, and I had patience. The kind of patience that comes from building something from the ground up, piece by piece, year by year. So I let them believe they had won. I played the part. I let my silence become a shield. And as they prepared the final meeting, the one where they expected me to sign away everything I had ever created, I prepared too. Not for surrender, for justice. Quiet, deliberate justice. The kind no one saw coming, especially the people who thought they had already taken everything from me. The day finally came. I walked into the large conference room with Robert by my side, my steps slow but deliberate. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and new leather chairs. I could feel every eye on me, weighing me, expecting me to look small, defeated. Blackline's CEO sat at the head of the table, two of their attorneys flanking him. Ethan was there, sitting upright, exuding confidence. Around them were the executives they had installed, all nodding at each other, as if victory had already been declared. Ethan slid a thick contract toward me, his fingers brushing the edge of the table. "Just signed, Dad," he said, a tight smile on his face. "You'll get $5 million. Simple." I looked at him. My son, the boy I raised, the man I had trusted, standing there trying to convince me to betray everything I had built. My chest tightened. My throat felt dry. I didn't speak. I didn't move the contract. I only looked. My eyes carried decades of heartbreak, disappointment, and something else, something they had not expected. Then, with calm hands, I pressed play on my phone. The first voice that filled the room was Ethan's. Clear, confident. He admitted to forging my authorization, detailing every step he had taken to push the sale through. Then came the second voice, Blackline's CEO, talking openly about erasing Turner Analytics, about wiping out the brand, the reputation, everything I had built over 30 years. He laughed quietly, the sound cutting through the room like ice. The silence afterward was unbearable. Every mouth opened slightly and closed again. The executives exchanged glances. Ethan's confident smile faltered. Blackline's CEO froze mid-gesture, his eyes darting around the room. Finally I spoke, my voice steady, calm, controlled. "I refuse, and I'm calling the police." No one moved. The room was heavy with shock. Then the door opened. Robert stepped in, followed by 3 officers. The quiet authority in their presence shifted the energy completely. Blackline's CEO and the 2 attorneys rose, immediately startled, trying to regain composure. Ethan stood as well, but his posture had changed. The arrogance drained from his face. The color in his cheeks faded. The officers moved methodically. They began explaining that Ethan and Blackline were being investigated for collusion, attempted corporate theft, and forgery. Ethan's hands were cuffed. The shock in his eyes mirrored the disbelief I had felt weeks ago. Only now it was directed at him. The executives, who had been pretending to run my company, were pushed aside. Their authority evaporated the moment the truth was revealed. Blackline's CEO tried to argue, but it was clear the power had shifted. The plan they had so carefully constructed was crumbling before them. I didn't yell. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. I just stood there, silent, watching, waiting. Every second of silence spoke louder than any words could. I let them feel the weight of underestimating me. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something settle inside me. The betrayal, the fear, the doubt, it all ended in that room. I had not only protected my company, I had exposed the truth. I had reclaimed what was mine. And in that silence, the people who thought they controlled everything realized they never had a chance against someone who knew the value of patience, planning, and quiet justice. After that day, things moved quickly. Blackline had no choice but to void the deal. The paperwork, the contracts, the promises, all of it was null and legally invalid. Turner Analytics was back where it belonged, under my control. The relief was quiet, but it ran deep. Years of work, decades of sweat weren't erased. Not yet. Ethan, he didn't recover as easily. The authorities took him seriously. Forgery, financial fraud, collusion, the charges piled up. His inheritance disappeared, along with the $2 million kickback he thought he had secured. His reputation in the tech world was shattered. Colleagues who once respected him now avoided him. Friends who had taken his side quietly distanced themselves. I never yelled at him. I never screamed. I didn't need to. The loss itself said enough. He tried to reach me afterward, sending messages, calling, even coming to the office, but I didn't engage. When he pleaded, when he begged, I said, "Only one thing. You didn't just sell my company. You sold your family." Those words were heavier than any fine, any judgment, any courtroom could deliver. They carried the weight of trust, broken of loyalty, ignored, of a bond twisted into betrayal. And then he left, quietly. For the first time, he faced the consequences, not as a shadow of his father's name, but as himself, alone, stripped of the shortcuts he had thought would secure him a future. I watched him go, understanding something painfully simple. Sometimes the most powerful justice is not revenge, but the natural consequence of a person's own choices. The ripple of betrayal may be loud, but it eventually settles and leaves only what is real behind. Turner Analytics survived. Ethan would have to survive without the things he thought could be taken from me. And in that balance, the world finally felt steady again. A year passed, and Turner Analytics was finally stable again. Slowly, steadily, we rebuilt trust within the company. I transferred leadership to a board that valued ethics over shortcuts, people who understood the meaning of responsibility and loyalty. The offices were alive again, not with tension or fear, but with focus and determination. Watching the team thrive reminded me why I had built this company in the first place. I spent my days differently, too. For decades, I had postponed volunteering, putting work first, thinking I would find time later. Now, I devoted hours to helping others, sharing knowledge, and giving back. It felt lighter, healthier, more meaningful than any deal or contract ever could. As for Ethan, he is trying to rebuild his life. He calls sometimes hesitantly. I haven't cut him out completely, but I let him face the consequences of his choices. Trust once shattered rarely returns whole. He is learning painfully that money, power, and shortcuts cannot replace the things he broke: family, reputation, and the integrity of a name. The lesson I carry with me, and the lesson I hope comes across in my story, is simple. Greed doesn't just ruin relationships. It erodes the soul. It makes people trade away things they can never buy back. Years of work, a lifetime of love, respect, trust, all gone in a single decision if one is willing to hand over the power. No one can take from you what you built with your hands, your mind, and your heart, unless you let them. And if they betray that trust, they must face the consequences, not just legally, but in the weight of what they have lost. If my story made you pause, made you think about the people you trust, the choices you make, or the power you give others, leave a comment and share your thoughts. And if you want more real-life stories like this, stories of betrayal, resilience, and justice, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Your time matters. Your attention matters. And I promise there are more lessons waiting in the next story, lessons about life, trust, and the quiet strength it takes to reclaim what is truly yours.